Welcome to the triune brain module. A very simple way of understanding the brain and your psychology as a human being in general is using the triune brain model. Now, the triune brain model exists of three aspects. We have the oldest part of the brain, which I'm going to call the primal brain. That is the oldest part that existed, and it's mainly for survival purposes. So think about you getting scared, you becoming alert when you hear a sound. That's number one. This is also the most powerful part of the brain because it's the oldest one, it's the most ingrained. So you need to understand how this works, because when you're talking to a prospect on a sales call, you're able to understand, even though logically, which we're going to talk about in a second, it makes total sense for them. Maybe on a primal level, it causes them fear. And the reason it causes them fear is because they've experienced something in the past that was similar and it went bad. So they're associating it to that bad experience. Or because they haven't experienced it in the past, they're thinking in terms of the future, and it's causing them anxiety because it's uncertain. So that's the primal part. Now let's cover the second part, which is the emotional part of the brain. So you know the primal part because it's the oldest. Reptiles have it, so we also call it the reptilian brain. Now the emotional brain, the second one, that one is also in mammals. Okay, so mammals have the emotional part as well, the limbic system. That's why you see, horses or cows playing together. They experience emotions of love. If there's a cow and the calf gets taken away from the cow gets sad and literally starts crying. Yes, they can cry. So they have that part, right? But they don't have the third part, which is the logical brain. Okay, so that is the most advanced version, and you can say only humans and some species of apes have this part of the brain. This is the most developed part. This is where we do our rational thinking, and it's actually the weakest part of our brain because it's the newest one. It's the least developed one. So we humans, the primitive part, that's the most powerful, that is really what runs us. Even though something is really good for you sometimes, your primal brain is so strong that you still end up doing the things that aren't that good for you logically, but in terms of your primal brain, it's signaling to you to actually go ahead and do it. So you have to understand these three parts of the brain. You have to be able to work with them. So whenever you're speaking to a prospect, it has to make sense for them on all three levels. You have to cover all the levels. So when we're talking about covering the primal level, we're talking about making them feel safe in this decision, that it is going to work out for them, making them feel safe that they are able to do it, that they are going to succeed in it, that regardless of the fact that they don't have a similar experience in the past, that if you keep doing the same things, you're always going to have the same life. So if they understand this really on a core level, they're going to feel safe enough to do it. Or if they have a past bad experience, you can also go deep in that aspect and make sure that even though they had a bad past experience, they shouldn't let their past define their future, because that's what most people do. That's why people live in cycles, and it is typically the same cycle that is repeating. And maybe you are one of those people that also experience this. So that's the primitive part. Now, the emotional part, closing them emotionally, what I'm talking about here is it has to feel really good for them. It has to align for them. There has to be some passion from their side in terms of the product that you're selling, having good association with you, liking you, etc. So when we're talking about the primitive brain, it means mainly trusting you and the product. And when we're talking about the emotional brain, we're talking about them liking the thing and liking you and liking the business, etc., and what you guys stand for. All right, so when we come to the logical aspect, this is all about it making sense to them logically. So the value of the product has to be higher than the amount of value that they are going to put in. I explained this before in the closing checklist. And if you haven't watched that one or you forgot, please go ahead and watch that one back where I explain it really well. So you have to close the prospect on all of these three levels. A lot of the times, if you are a logical person and you're speaking to someone that isn't that logical and they aren't being logical with you on the call, that probably means that either they don't like the product, it doesn't resonate with them on an emotional heart level, or they don't trust the entire process, whether it is trusting you in general, the company, or trusting that it's gonna work for them. So that's a little bit what I wanted to share with you about the triune brain.